All right, let's be real for a second. For a lot of students, the words literature review can spark a special kind of dread. It just sounds so formal, complicated, and maybe a little bit boring. If you've ever felt that way, trust me, you are not alone. But it really doesn't have to be that way. We're going to demystify the whole thing right here, right now.
So what exactly is this thing professors are always asking for? If you've ever thought it's just a really long, boring summary of a bunch of articles you had to read, well, you're not wrong to think that, but it's so much more. And today, we're going to break down exactly what it is and how you can do it well.
Okay, if you remember one thing from this, let it be this. A literature review is an argument. You're not just a reporter, listing who said what. You're more like a detective. You're critically evaluating the evidence, pulling it all together, and making your own case. You're essentially mapping out the entire conversation that's already happened, just so you can point to one empty spot and say, see that? That's where my research fits in. And here's why it matters.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with a great mental model called the funnel approach. Then we'll get into how you actually structure your writing. We'll also clear up some super common mix-ups about what a lit review is and what it isn't. And we'll wrap up by talking about how this whole process actually helps you find your own voice as a scholar.
First things first, let's talk strategy. Before you even write a single word, you need a way to wrap your head around this task. And honestly, one of the best ways to do that is with a beautifully simple idea called the funnel approach.
So check out this visual. It pretty much shows the entire journey of your research. People call it an hourglass, but you can think of it as two funnels stacked on top of each other. That top funnel, that's your literature review. You start really broad with the big picture ideas. Then you start narrowing your focus, getting more and more specific until you find one tiny unanswered question. That's your gap. Then that bottom funnel kicks in. It starts with your specific study filling that gap, and then it zooms back out to show how your work connects to the bigger conversation. Pretty cool, right? For now, let's just focus on that top funnel.
So let's break that funnel down into 5 steps. It all starts with the broader context, setting the stage. Why does this topic even matter? Then you start to narrow it down by identifying the main challenges in the field. What are the big problems people are trying to solve? That leads you to look at the state-of-the-art. What have other people already tried? Now here's the most important part, your analysis and criticism. You're not just summarizing what you find, you're looking for the holes, the limitations. And it's that critical eye that finally lets you pinpoint the research gap, that one specific missing piece that your study is going to address.
Let's make this feel a little more real. Say you're studying influencer marketing. You'd start broad with its explosive growth. Then you'd narrow in on the big challenges, like how do you even measure success? You'd look at the existing studies on micro versus macro influencers. But then your critical analysis might notice that, hey, almost all of this research is really short-term. And just like that, bam, the funnel leads you right to a specific gap. Almost nobody is looking at how well nano-influencers work for business-to-business companies. Now you have a clear purpose for your own study.
Okay, so you've used the funnel to organize your thoughts. That's a huge step. But now let's talk about organizing your actual writing. You've got this pile of sources. How do you arrange them on the page to build that killer argument?
You've basically got 2 main choices. You can go chronologically, which is by time, or you can go thematically, which is by ideas or common topics. So, which one's right for you? Let's break them down. The chronological approach is pretty much what it sounds like. You're telling a story over time. You trace how a topic has evolved, from the very first studies all the way to the latest research. The thematic approach, on the other hand, is like sorting your sources into different buckets based on common ideas. This is really useful because it lets you put different studies into a direct conversation with each other, even if they were published years apart.
So how do you choose? Well, a chronological approach is great if the historical development is the main point, like if you're talking about a field that's been totally transformed by a new law or a piece of tech. But honestly, for most complex topics, the thematic approach is way more powerful. It lets you organize everything around the key debates and arguments in the field, which makes it much easier to highlight the exact gap your research is going to fill.
All right, we're doing great. Before we finish up, let's just quickly tackle a couple of very common points of confusion. I promise getting these straight in your head will save you so much time and headache down the road.
Okay, first up, is a literature review the same thing as a theoretical framework? You're going to need both for a big paper or a dissertation, but they do totally different jobs. The simple, direct, and very emphatic answer is no, they are not the same thing, and mixing them up is a super common mistake. Here's why. Here's the easiest way to think about it. Your literature review answers the question, what has already been said?
It's all about surveying the existing conversation. Your theoretical framework answers the question, how am I going to analyze this problem? It's the specific lens, the theory, or the model you're going to use to guide your own work. So the Lit Review looks backward at what's been done, the framework looks forward to how you're going to do it.
Okay, one more common mix-up. Is a literature review just a fancier term for an annotated bibliography? Again, simple answer, nope.
An annotated bibliography is a fantastic tool, don't get me wrong, but it's really just a list of summaries. Think of it this way, your annotated bibliography is you doing your prep work, gathering all your ingredients. The literature review is the final dish. It's a brand new creation where you've synthesized all those separate ingredients into one cohesive, delicious argument.
So, let's bring this all home. A literature review, when you get right down to it, isn't just another assignment you have to check off a list. It's actually a really important moment. It's when you go from being a student who just learns about a subject to a scholar who gets to help shape it. And really, that's what this is all about. A literature review is how you get to stand on the shoulders of giants. You learn from all the amazing work that came before you. You show it respect, and then, and this is the best part, you get to show them what they missed. You get to point the way forward to that next fascinating piece of the puzzle. And that piece, well, that's your research.